Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you back again into the latest Inlit Asia series of young Indonesian professional in the energy sector. And in this new latest episodes, produced by Enlit Asia Initiate and Energy Investment Management, we're going to have a discussion about digitization in energy industry, particularly in Indonesia. And together already with us, a good friend of mine, Dani Kusuma. Dani, welcome aboard. Good to have you here,
Hello,
man.
thank you for the time.
Okay, I should be thanking you. Hey, Dani, let's call. You prefer Dani or Danny?
Yeah, the same. It's just Danny, usually.
I'll call you Dani for Indonesian one. Dani, you maybe before we start, talk
Mm,
to us a little bit about your background. I know that you study mechanical engineering and then renewable
yeah.
energy master, but maybe you should talk to us about your education and then your professional.
Okay. So, yeah, as you know, started as a mechanical engineer. I study at ITB, Institut Teknologi Bandung, in mechanical engineering, and just after the graduation, I starting career as a mechanical engineer 5 years ago. In a company called Taka Turbo Machinery. It is basically company that providing service and maintenance to the power plants that retrofit their turbines. So yeah, actually that's the start when I actually working in a bit of energy sector.
Okay, and then after that, you study renewable energy for your master. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So tell us about that. Where do you study and what's the detail you study?
Okay, so yeah, because I started in Taka Turbo, and then I feel that I am motivated to learn more in the energy sector. I decided to took the renewable energy master, and it was a master degree in Sweden and France. It was a double degree master, and yeah, and I learned many technologies, wind turbine, solar PV, biomass, and also how the power system must transform, and then how the impact of the fossil fuel to the environment or the climate. So it's actually a broad master degree that I took that helps me understand how currently the energy system and how we should move forward with
Mhm,
renewable.
mhm. So if we going back a little bit, what motivates you in the beginning to pick energy sector and
Uh,
later also study about renewable energy? What's
yeah,
the
actually,
motivation there?
yeah. I remember when I worked in Taka Turbo Machinery, um, many turbines come to the factory, and I realized that most of the turbine are coming from Java and Sumatra Island. Um, I question myself, what about the other island? How do they make electricity? And
Mhm,
I just realized that most of them are diesel powered or unelectrified at all. That what pushed me to learn about energy sector and decided to master degree. And it turned out when I study, actually, like solar, wind resources, especially biomass, it's available abundantly in across Indonesian archipelago. And that's why I think this is the solution as well for Indonesia.
mhm. Terrific. And then after your study, I also noticed that you learning, taking some courses also on digitalization, not particularly, but more like on data engineering. And then also after that, I noticed that you worked a bit of in Internet of Things, particularly. Maybe if you want to talk, maybe if you want to tell about the work you done?
Okay. Yeah, I just after I graduated from the master degree, I joined a company called Aden, and it is actually a company that provides service like it is called facility management, such
Mhm,
as catering service, cleaning, maintenance. Not really related to technology, but I was surprised that they are just starting to have technology service like digital solution, robotics, as well as energy. That's why I was interested.
mhm,
And specifically in the energy sector in Aden, there are projects like installing wind turbine, solar PV, and even EV charging. But
mhm,
there is one particular product that is currently developed by Aden. It is called digital twin. It's quite hard to explain. Maybe I can give you an example. Yeah. Um, Suppose that you are working in a room, and then you decide to take a break or leave the room. Do you turn off the light or AC? No, but you think that it is a small consumption, but let's getting bigger. Yeah, when you come to office or super mall, you ever feel like it's very cold even though you know that there are only few people in the room. And the question is, how do you set the AC or light to set always in the optimum supply, also factoring parameters like the outside temperature, the humidity, the number of people, even the electricity price. So with digital twin, you have a copy in the of the physical system. For example, like office building, you have a CAD files that specify the dimension, the location for each equipment, and it becomes the map in the application or in the software. And then if you have a sensor that collecting data like room temperature and also the power taken by every equipment and even the vibration of the machine, and the last one you can have some kind of a brain, the computer software that have a machine learning model that optimize all of those data that collected and then controlling the equipment, for example the lights, the AC, to become a more and more efficient system. So I hope that's easily to be understood. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, it's very perfectly well. I mean, uh, if it were up to me, if I only talk about air conditioning or lamp, maybe I won't think
Hmm.
about that much. But it's completely different if I have the whole apartment or the whole building office, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's huge energy, and then where there's every little detail is really matter. Like, for if you ask me, I would be very happy to know which detail of consumption that I've used and which can I cut off and then which can I save, because we're talking about a huge amount of saving here, right? Especially if
yeah,
you
yeah,
convert it to
exactly.
the money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also to the industrial sectors, you have a large amount of boilers, compressors,
Mm.
chillers, and those all equipment consume a lot of energy. And how do you optimize it to provide exact amount of supply that matching the environment condition? That's how the I think digitalization helps the energy system.
Perfect. Maybe you can, in your personal view, Danny, you can talk about, how is the landscape at the moment of digitalization of energy sector? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about 3D of energy sector,
Hmm.
decarbonization, decentralization, and digitization.
Yeah.
But we hear a lot about the first two in Indonesia. But how about the third one? Is it only just a buzzword, or is it really coming? And how it transforms business as we know?
Um. When we heard about digitalization, I think most people think anything that related to internet, to computer, artificial intelligence, IoT, mobile apps, something like that. But in my opinion, in a very fundamental way, digitalization means that we are mimicking, or what is it, simulating the physical world into a digital world. And with digitalization, it helps you collect many amount of data that it is not possible in the real world. um, Also, you can have a much more calculation in single time and in single place. That's why you can have a much more efficient decision. So when it comes to the energy industry, I give you the first example in the building, yeah. And it it's the same in the industry as well. With a lot of machinery, digitalization helps how to optimize the motors in the production line, to control them in more harmonic, in more efficient system. And I think the most interesting one is in the power sector. As I remember, actually I remember when I have a lecture in a master degree, the professor explaining about how the variable output of the RE, that's why it's not predictable, and how to tackle this kind of uncertainty. So one thing is that digitalization can help to monitor and predict the power output of the renewable. And there is a lot of research that working on it to predict how much power output of wind and solar in the next 1 hour, the next day, and so on. And therefore, with this kind of prediction, we can adjust the power output of the base load, for example, a coal power plant, and then adjusting based on the fluctuation of the renewable. That's on the supply side. On the demand side, we can have something called demand response. For example, when it is a peak time or peak hours, or when the electricity is high, a device or smart system can adjust the load at home or in office to shift the load to the night, for example. And what else? Oh, I think lastly on the transport sector, with the emergence of EV, we have a lot of energy storage, distributed energy storage, and as a smart system obviously can have to optimize this kind of fleet to store the solar and wind when it is excess, and use it when it used for transport. I think in conclusion, digitalization helps to, yeah, monitor, predict, and optimize.
But how about the execution of it, Danny? I mean, all of the good stuff you tell us about, it's very promising, and I can
Hmm.
imagine that I forget who said it, but he said like software will eat the world, and I assume energy also one of it. But how is the execution of it at the moment, especially in Indonesia?
Yeah, it's just starting to work in the West, in Europe, US, Japan, and especially China. The company Aden that I work is has a headquarter in China, and they work heavily on this. Um, yeah, in the cost demand side, I think there are a lot of trial and error by the industry, not just in the academia. But yeah, um, the easy solution already in practice. We are just waiting the price to be cheap enough for developing countries like Indonesia. And yeah, when I have a client in Indonesia, most of them are multinational. The local company are not really interested in this kind of digitalization.
Not
Or
yet, I hope.
not yet. I think it's just a matter of time when the cost is cheap enough for them, because energy price in Indonesia is cheap enough that not really encouraging for us to reduce the consumption.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but I think in the end we will come to this. It's not physically, theoretically, it's not impossible. It's just a matter of time, more research, more fun for the business entity to implement in the market as well.
Okay, fantastic. Now maybe the last question. Can you tell us how digitalization will play a role in energy transition? Is it effectively enabling more effective and faster energy transition, or is it more like orthogonally independent in the sense that digitalization does not necessarily support renewable energy only, but also any kind of energy?
Yeah, in general, yes, of course, it will push towards faster energy transition. But in my opinion, all kind of technology is always blind. It means that you can use it for anything, can be good for bad, or you whether you like it or not. The clear example is nuclear power. You can have either nuclear bomb or emission-free power plant.
Okay.
So I think it really depends on us, our government, and the policy, and also the customer demand. Actually, if more of the customer wants more green energy resource, I think we can have a faster decarbonize our energy system, especially with this digitalization tools.
Okay, it's very strong closing statement that technology is particularly blind. What make it really matter is what human decides, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Danny Kusuma, thank you very much for talking with us. It's always good to have you.
Yeah. Very great to have this interview as well. Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.